Why every marketing channel breaks eventually. Sounds a little bit morbid, and I don't mean to scare you. You guys know this anyway. But there is no such thing really as a safe marketing channel. All of them have their risks, and of course their advantages too. But there are trade-offs in that, and it's important to go into your strategy and to think about these things when you're building your e-commerce ecosystem for your revenue. Every channel works until it doesn't. And the problem isn't necessarily that some of them do fail momentarily or even longer term, but actually it's being underprepared for and ignorant to the risks that come with it. If you're ignorant to that, you can't de-risk and you can't future-proof. It's as simple as that. So I thought it might be helpful to break down some of the core channels that might make up your revenue ecosystem and just talk about some of the risks that come with those channels, so they are front of mind when you're making all of those all-important decisions. So first of all, thinking about paid ads, and this is probably one of the most obvious ones, so we'll fly through this one, but cost per click inflation over time. Sometimes that is a really slow increase, and it can kind of get lost in when you're seeing that kind of ROAS or that revenue kind of drive. You can almost lose sight of that. So it's really important to keep a close eye on those cost per clicks and how that is working. Is that ROI really being driven in the way that you think it is? Privacy changes regarding targeting accuracy, so cookies and things like that, can really impact the amount of data and accurate data and attribution that we're able to get through these channels, and things like that can change pretty quickly. Sometimes even when you get warning, the implications aren't known for a little while, and that does put the channel and your performance at risk. It really is as simple as that. So just having that front of mind when you're working out how much you want to depend on these paid channels is super, super important. Creative fatigue. We all know that once a customer has seen an ad over and over and over again, they become ad blind and they stop engaging. They almost don't see it anymore. So paid channels really require a lot of creativity, a lot of resource in that area to continue to keep things fresh and clean. Now, using an agency is a fantastic way to target that if you don't have that resource in-house, but let's be honest, it's still going to cost. It still comes at a cost. So consider that when you're thinking about the spend that you're putting into these platforms and how they work. And then ultimately, it's just that fact that you are paying for that acquisition. So it isn't something that is owned by you. It is something that you are having to pay for. And as those costs and as that competitiveness rises, it becomes much more difficult to remain profitable and to maintain that ROI that was once particularly attractive to you. SEO, where to start with this one? I think first and foremost, it's the algorithm updates can literally change your rankings overnight. We have seen this time and time again, not particularly with our own clients, because I will say that if your strategy is really strong, coherent, covers all bases, then in theory, regardless of what the algorithm update is, you should maintain a reasonable position. But for brands that perhaps haven't been focusing on SEO particularly very well, or have only been focusing on one part of SEO but not another, algorithm changes can pose a real threat to revenue that's coming through that organic channel for you. And rankings, visibility, and therefore revenue from some of your key category pages, some of your key terms can really diminish overnight. And that takes a lot of time to work on to recover as well. AI search, of course, we couldn't get through a video without mentioning that. It really reduces click-through rates. As you will know, position 1 click-through rate has significantly declined through the introduction of AI overviews, and actually lots of people, not just the younger generation, which I think is a huge misconception, but lots and lots of your customers out there are no longer prioritizing Google as their first search engine, but actually they are turning to ChatGPT, to Claude, to find out the information that they want. So AI is kind of coming into this field, not only reducing click-through rate because of the AI overview and how that is available at the top of the SERP and dominating that for a lot of queries, but also because it's providing an alternative space for your users to search. Good SEO will keep you visible in those LLMs. Lots of agencies and lots of experts out there are telling you that you perhaps need to pay for SEO and AI services separately, and that it's a completely different kettle of fish. We don't believe that, and we've seen time and time again with our existing clients that actually good visibility in AI platforms is rooted in a really solid, good best practice SEO strategy. So really, if things have been done right from the start, then it's only a place that we can build from. And search intent often evolves faster than you can ever get your content strategies to evolve. And that is a real risk with SEO. So we as consumers are becoming far more diverse in the way that we search, in what we want, and how our expectations are rising of brands. And if you are unable to keep up with that momentum, if you're relying on one person, perhaps part-time or even full-time, to develop all of that content, it really is a challenge to keep on top of that and to be able to meet your customers' needs as and when they need them on your website and across other channels as well. That is something that is super important to consider and acknowledge when you're thinking about the role that SEO and ultimately organic revenue is going to play in your revenue ecosystem. That brings us on to marketplaces, and it's something that we haven't discussed all that much so far. But ultimately, when you are listing your products on marketplaces, and there are huge advantages, let's not kind of scoot over that at all. But the margin compression, first and foremost, is a huge risk for marketplaces. So you are not getting as much margin as you would get if a customer had gone to your website and purchased directly through your site, whether that be because they found you organically through AI search, through a paid ad, whether that's Google or Meta. When you're using marketplaces, that is eating into your margin and ultimately reducing your profitability and ability to scale. So that's something that's a real risk when it comes to marketplaces. Second of all is a lack of brand ownership. Often you are really restricted with the way that you can list, the imagery that can be used, the language that can be used, even if it is around your own brand and your own products. That is something to really consider, especially if you feel like brand is a huge part of who you are and what you do. We work with some e-com stores where brand is the absolute center of everything that they do, and rightly so. But there are other brands who are perhaps retailers that sell other brands, and it isn't as important. So it's really important to weigh that up and understand exactly what brand means to you. And does that rigidity on a marketplace prohibit the message and the feel that you want to get across with your brand? And lastly, I'd say a third limitation to marketplaces is the limited customer data access that you get. So when a customer is purchasing directly through your website, and again, whatever source that traffic has come through, then at least you're getting the opportunity to capture all of that data, perhaps feed that into your marketing strategy, your email marketing strategy and things like that. That isn't always the case with marketplaces. It isn't always accessible to you. There are certain rules and policies that have to be adhered to. So really another thing to consider is just, if we are having purchases made on marketplaces, how much information are we losing on our customers, and ultimately, what is that worth to us? And the last channel that I'm going to cover is email. We love a little bit of email marketing here at eComOne, and the return that we can see for clients has been amazing in adding an additional revenue stream. So many times clients come to us and other channels are quite working well and they just really want to invest somewhere else, which is perfect. That's exactly what we're trying to get them to do, to build that diversity and to build that ecosystem for revenue to de-risk their business. But as with all of the other channels, it doesn't come without risks. So I think it's important to talk about them. First of all, it's inbox saturation. Sometimes it's difficult to grow that list organically, which of course is really the only way to do it. So sometimes you have you exceed that list, and you have to be creative in the ways that you can segment your audiences further to get them re-engaged with content that is really, really specific to their journey. Deliverability challenges. Sometimes it's really difficult to maintain a high deliverability score. Sometimes that is because of things that are out of your control. And it's really, really difficult to keep on top of that sometimes. That needs to be a metric that is front of mind, not just revenue, but also deliverability. If you can't get yourself into your customers' inboxes, then your whole strategy is out of whack. And thirdly, the limited acquisition capabilities of email without other platforms feeding into it. So of course, email is fantastic for nurturing and looking after those customers that are already bought into your brand. It encourages loyalty, it increases lifetime value, and all of that amazing stuff that helps you scale, which helps drive that revenue in long term. It definitely de-risks. However, it's quite difficult to grow that list and acquire new customers via email. If you are not getting those people onto the website in the first place, whether that be via paid ads, whether that be via organic social or organic AI listings, whatever it might be, if you're not getting people there in the first place to see your email pop-up form, to put the information in, to be enticed by an offer or an incentive and to get them subscribed onto that list, if you're not using those other acquisition channels, it's almost impossible to scale your email marketing list and therefore to see it grow to its full potential. And that, I would say, is probably the biggest weakness of email marketing as a channel. So really, every channel has a ceiling and a breaking point, and it's just about massaging the ego of each of these channels together in a nice ecosystem to make sure that they are complementing each other in the right percentages and in the right amount to really get the most out of your budget and your team. This channel is here to help e-commerce brands cut through the noise and focus on what actually moves the needle. Like and subscribe for more.